Grab your coffee and join me, Nicoa, for a caffeinated conversation about life. I'll be talking to people who have chosen to walk their own paths and, just like me, are creating a life by design. I hope it will give you the inspiration you need to do exactly the same. Tasha Ina Church, how are you today?
Aloha, I'm doing well. How are you?
Aloha, I want to do that. She just shook her hand, guys, for y'all listening. Like, you know, what does that even mean? Like, hang
shaka.
loose? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're dialing in today from Maui.
Yes, I am.
And, you know, you referenced just a minute ago before I give the quick overview. How is everyone after is it the Lahaina fire that occurred? You mentioned that had a big impact.
Yes. Yeah. So it's been a challenge. I live in Lahaina, for those of you listening. And yeah, it was really tough for a lot of people. I believe there's still over 3,000 people displaced. And so it has been difficult. I had, I lost probably about 40% of my business because it was the in-person training. So I have two parts of my business, and one is online coaching and online courses. And then the other one is, is teaching in-person trainings. And so the places that I taught sadly burned down.
Oh my.
So it's an interesting process to see how everybody's doing. I feel so fortunate that my partner and I, are doing a lot better, financially than so many other people. But
it was heartbreaking. Yeah,
it was heartbreaking. I was actually teaching the Puyallup tribe self-defense when the fire was happening, and then my partner was here. So it was just this, because we were in two different places, and very happy when I was reunited with him. But just to see all my friends, I had several friends who lost their homes, and just to see the community. I spent the first week giving out care packages that I had put together when I was in Washington, just because I couldn't sit still.
I'm sure. Oh.
Yeah. And then after that, gave psychological first aid to some of my clients and just supported them at that time. And I've been doing community safety workshops and basically having it donation based because so many people lost their jobs and their livelihood. Well,
I'm sorry that everyone has gone through that. It was really difficult for those of us stateside to watch, and but some beautiful stories came out of it as well, like the reblooming of the trees, the banyan trees, and
banyan trees, so beautiful.
Oh, wow. And then, like you said, coming together, and you've already hinted at a lot of your generosity and your way of being and your life by design. So let me just take a quick moment and give everybody an overview of your background. Just phenomenal. And I also want to pronounce, I'd like to introduce you again, but pronouncing your indigenous name, is it Iyémote, or how would you pronounce that?
Iyémote.
Iyémote. And it says here, Tasha, that you are an Indigenous female entrepreneur, a course creator, an author, a podcaster of the Empowered Hour. Is that right? Is that the name of the podcast?
Yeah.
Cool. And is the founder and owner of ElleLiveAction just for the past couple of years. She provides everybody, this is really phenomenal work, empowerment coaching. She helps her clients in removing barriers in their life. She offers empowering strategies. She's been doing this type of work for 23 years of experience in the field. And she actually is trained in all sorts of martial arts. And I'm curious, very curious about Aikido. I actually reference that in some of my coaching workshops because and I think I wrote down the reference, the way of harmonious spirit. I talk often about language and energy and how what we resist versus what we flow with. And I can't wait to talk about that. She also has warrior spirit training with Jeff Alexander, who was the trainer for Rocky Balboa. How cool is that? And you are continuing to be in martial arts. Sorry, go ahead. Let's start talking about all of it.
Oh, no. Yeah. I was just saying that when I'm in classes or working with kids, that tends to date me because I'm like, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky. And it's like,
and they're like, who?
But the teacher's like, yeah.
I think they're going to do a remake. Did I hear they're going to do a remake?
I don't know. That would be
They
awesome.
should.
Then they'll actually know who I'm talking about.
No. It's like, that reminds me of a while back, I actually went to, I guess it's been a few years, but I was at my alma mater and I was teaching a class as a guest lecturer. And I said, oh, yay, I graduated from NC State, the class of 91. And all the kids like started chuckling. And I was like, what? And they were like, that's the year most of us were born.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yep. Story of my life.
Yep, mine too. Okay, so now that the two wise women have come together on this podcast to share our wisdom and experiences, why don't we back up a minute and just talk a little bit about your life in general? You had some really cool parents and you were raised learning some pretty phenomenal skills like nonviolent communication. And talk about your upbringing to set the stage.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. So first, I grew up on 6 acres on a farm. I woke up every morning and my dad was like, all right, it's time to go feed the chickens, water the plants, do all that. We'd feed horses. And it was a beautiful upbringing. It was really just, I look back and I've cried multiple times thinking, oh my God, I can't believe how lucky I was as a child, because I look at, kids today and there's a lot of, I know that parents are doing the best that they can. There's so much that I feel like kids don't get that I had, and I didn't really, I valued it, but I didn't see the full picture of what I was being offered. I mean, I did archery when I was little.
Yes.
I rode horses. I could ride a horse before I could walk. And my parents, they were teachers, so they came from very humble backgrounds, both of them, and they made the conscious decision that they really wanted to create a safe environment for their kids growing up. And so I have a brother, and he's just amazing. And he's married to this beautiful Brazilian woman. And I have a niece who's 14 going on 30.
Right.
She is a mini me though. So I told my brother one day he would suffer for past past little things that he would do. I'm like, you're gonna get stuck with someone like me.
Yep, that's right. Karma.
Just like me. I'm like, oh yay, the world is right again.
Well, she's lucky to have you as an aunt, a role model. I mean, you're really quite the force, as you say in your overview. So, how did that launch your life? You moved to Hawaii when, and what was the connection of your upbringing to getting to where you are now?
Yeah. So my mom and dad, I said they were teachers. They studied nonviolent communication. They studied Say It Straight, which basically is like this amazing form for boundary setting. Say it like it is. Say what you want. Say how you want it. Just, so it set me up for success in so many different ways. When I was younger, my parents, the first place that they could afford to fly us was actually coming to Maui. My parents saved until I was in 5th grade and finally were able to take us on this beautiful vacation. And they took us to Maui, and I fell in love with Maui. I loved it just because I am Indigenous, but where I grew up, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me, and my mom and I just fit in.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was just really great, and it felt like home. And And so my parents, before timeshares were an actual thing, they got on board and were able to come here every year, much to the timeshare people's dismay when they were like raising prices and doing all this other stuff. My parents had,
entry level. Yeah, those were good. Those were good.
They're like, you're paying what? But yeah, so we got to come here, and I mean, again, charmed. I feel very privileged for what I got to experience. And my mom, she actually got connected. We used to go to powwows, and she got connected to an indigenous healer from the Stalo Nation. And
say the name of the nation again. It overlapped.
Oh yes, Stalo. Yeah, Stalo. Stalo Nation. And they are a band, not a tribe. So bands in Canada are what tribes are in the United States.
Okay.
And they're considered First Nations instead of Native American. And so I'm part Nez Perce Native American. My mom's part Nez Perce Native American. Very interesting, long story about World War II. My grandpa.
I love it. Keep telling us. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, my grandpa, he was in the Navy, and his ship blew up in World War II, and he carried his best friend ashore, only to find he was carrying half a body, and he had to make it back from enemy shores back to the United States. And so they sent a letter back to my grandma saying that he had died, and his really good friend was Native American. And long story short, my grandpa showed up at the door and was like, "Hi, I'm home." And 8 months later, my mom came. So,
wow, what a cool story, but horrifying at the same time. That was like really scary.
Yes, I know. That's why I was like, "Oh, you really want to hear this story?"
Yeah.
But yeah. So my mom didn't get told that she was Native American until she was like 27 years old. And after that, she really wanted to be connected to her roots. My grandmother is Ukrainian, and she's from the Ukraine. And so she really didn't want to recognize the Native American. She wanted to recognize, my grandpa, who was home. And so it was a really interesting experience for her and her rites of passage to find this indigenous healer who wanted to have my mom come under her wing and became her adopted daughter. And basically, my mom traveled with this indigenous healer, Doris Peters, all throughout the United States and Canada doing indigenous healing work. And
wow.
Some of those amazing skills down to me. And so that was my upbringing. I got to experience that. My dad, he is white with beautiful blue eyes and at one time brown hair. I have this picture of him that just makes me smile every time. But he was, wearing this Mexican wedding shirt, and he was up at Mount Rainier, and he was playing guitar and singing to my mom "Time in a Bottle" for their wedding. And he had this big Scottish fro. So it's an interesting mix that I have, but I feel so blessed to have so many different cultures that I can celebrate.
Yes.
And so, that was my upbringing, but I had all of these different experiences in my life that led me to the work that I do. I had a stalker at 15. He met me when I was 15 years old. And I confronted him when I was 18, I believe. So that was a really intense experience for me because he was ex-special forces from the military. He was 6'2" and over 230 pounds. And that's, for my 5'4",
right.
It was a huge experience for me to stick up for myself. Very terrifying, actually, but,
how did that begin? So just out of curiosity, I had a friend from middle school who ultimately had a stalker, which made it very difficult for us to find her after we all grew up because she had really isolated herself. So had you dated this person? Was there someone in your world? Like, how did this person show up?
He met he was one of my brother's best friends. And I happened to be introduced to him, and he presented himself as like a big brother to me. He invited me over to play video games and, get snacks. And I was like, this is amazing. As a teenager, you're like, oh my gosh, chips and dip and video games. Like, who don't want that stuff? And then I was like, oh, this is strange. I'm seeing you everywhere.
So you're like, this is awesome. And then you're okay. So why does he keep showing up everywhere? Why do I keep running into him? Is that what you were saying?
And then he ended up being very angry when he found out that I had a boyfriend for the first time. And it just ended up blowing up. I was having this horrible evening out, but I was out dancing and I thought that I saw him, but I wasn't sure. And I was just like, why is he here? And I had already had a very strange moment with him, because I came over to his house because one of my girlfriends, she invited me over to stay, and she invited boys over, and I did not want to be around that.
Sure.
I did not do underage drinking or different stuff like that. And so I showed up and I was like, oh my God. And there was some strange part of me that's like, I don't want my friend to get in trouble because I go home, I'm going home early. And so I was telling my big brother, who was like,
right,
come stay over at my house. It'll be fine. And so, yeah, I fell asleep at his house. I woke up and he was on top of me.
Oh God.
And I ended up hitting him with a vase. Yeah. And running out the door. And then I called him later and confronted him. And I don't know where I got the words, but I was so calm. And I just said, look, you're never going to see me again. You're not going to touch me. If you do, I'm going to take everything you love away from you. I'm going to take your friend. I'm going to take my parents. You need to stay away from me. And he cussed me out. I had heard words that I did not know. My. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the C word is, but I'm going to look it up.
Oh gosh.
And so I just had to, I remember pausing and I was, telling myself, okay, breathe. And I just said, I don't think you heard me. Let me repeat myself. And I said the same thing again, talk about the say it straight stuff that my parents taught me. And I said, you got it? And he goes, yeah. And never talked to him after that.
Wow. So good for you. You had that inner knowing. You set a boundary, because that we all have the inner knowing. We all have the truth inside of us. And yeah. I love that you were, I'm so sorry that happened. Unfortunately, too many people have that story, where something, they're inappropriately approached, touched, taken advantage of. But you were young enough to not be biased by societal, well, I don't want to offend anybody, or I don't want to, and raised by parents with really powerful communication skills to teach you.
And they, my parents, I look back and I am so grateful for them. Like, just so, I can't even tell you how amazing they are to me, how wonderful, but it was a scary experience. And right after that, I joined a martial arts school.
Guess what, y'all? I published a book. Your Life by Design, a Coffee with Nicoa self-care coaching journal, is now available on Amazon. This interactive journal begins and ends with powerful queries, guiding you on a quest for the kind of life by design you don't need a vacation from. I've included an in-depth look at strategic self-care to empower you and hold you accountable to really getting to know your true self. It's time to prioritize you. Use the link in the show notes to buy yours today. Okay, so talk about martial arts and your life by design. And I know there's another story that emerges here, but let's talk about the beginning of all of that.
Yeah. So, for me, martial arts, it was a gateway. I used to play basketball. I loved sports, so I was very competitive, and I really enjoyed the art. I thought it was something very beautiful. I studied 7 styles of Japanese martial arts. So Aikido was my main style, Jiu-Jitsu, Shotokan, Jiu-Jitsu, Kabuto, Iaido. It was amazing to just be completely immersed in that and do that 5 days a week. And I really loved it. But I was one of the only women there.
I bet. Yeah.
And I didn't think about it at the time. You're a teenager and you have these things happen, but I realized looking back that I was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable with men saying, "Hey, you want to spar?" I was just like, "Oh, kind of interesting. I don't know if I want that," but at the time it's like, "Oh yeah, sure. Let me get in there." And so over time, I just realized, this didn't feel as safe to me. And I did have to deal with, sexual harassment and a lot of adverse situations at my dojo with men. And so it was really hard because I went there so that I could learn to protect myself and I didn't feel safe.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was doing salsa dancing at the time. I had this amazing self-defense partner, Lee Ville-san. We still stay in touch, and he's Laotian, and he studied Chinese martial arts as well as Japanese. And he would take me out salsa dancing because he didn't know what was going on in my life, but he knew that, something was just off. And so he was like, "You know what I do when I'm stressed? I go salsa dancing. Do you want to go salsa dancing?" And he was like a big brother. He still is. He's, like what you would want.
That was the right kind of relationship, the appropriate.
The appropriate kind. Yes. And so he would take me up salsa dancing and talk to me about, this is what you look for from like a respectable salsa partner, all of this stuff. And so for a year, I did that. I had a wonderful time. I mean, I did it for years after, but a year into me studying and going out dancing and having a wonderful time, I had someone buy me a drink and I was roofied at the ballroom that I was at and taken from the ballroom in my car over an hour away to this person's house. And so,
this was somebody in the group that had been in the salsa group with you for a year that you knew.
Yes. I knew him. I danced with him almost every time that I was there. He was very well respected as far as just being an amazing dancer. But he also was notorious womanizer. And for me, I don't normally let people buy me beverages or anything like that. And just because of my upbringing, didn't drink a lot anyway. And so, I remember specifically him offering to buy me a drink. And at the very beginning, when I was getting to know everybody, I was saying, I teach martial arts, thinking that's safe. That puts me in this safe box. And getting to know all of these different people under that of like, oh, I'm safe because I'm letting them know I teach martial arts. So therefore I will kick your butt. But he asked if he could buy me a drink. And I remember saying to him, "Just one drink." And he goes, "Yep." And it was weird. And I saw him talking to the bartender for a while, and he came back and gave me this drink. And I didn't drink the whole drink. I remember drinking some of it, and then maybe about 15 minutes later, just really feeling off. And then I couldn't really walk out. I remember him like throwing my arm over his shoulder and then him telling people, "Oh, I'm drunk," walking me out the door. And yeah, I remember the drive there. I just kept on looking down because I couldn't move my body.
Wow.
Had, no use of my limbs. I just kept on looking down at my feet. And, there's that Kill Bill part where she's like, "Move your big toe."
Yeah. You're like, I can't move. That's horrifying. So scary.
Horrifying, yes. And so I was I'm telling myself, move, like just looking at my hands, like move. And so by the time I got to his house, which was an hour away, and he's carrying me up to his room, I'm realizing like my feet can move a little bit, my hands can move a little bit.
Okay.
And so intuition's kicking in and it's telling me like, wait. And so he leaves the room and I'm like, you gotta move. And so I got up and it felt like syrup, it felt like I was moving through syrup. That's how those terrifying dreams that women have where they're running and they're running so slow.
Yeah, I've had those dreams. They're terrible.
Oh, they're horrible. They're horrible. I will say that after doing self-defense for so long, those dreams go away.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I remember getting to my keys and like, grounding myself like, okay, you're going to have one chance at this. And he walked in and I hit him in the face with the keys. And I ran, which was probably walking, but then I fell down a flight of stairs and I had to drive myself home at 3:00 in the morning. And I called my girlfriend at that time and told her what was happening. She was my salsa dancing friend. And so she's like, "Oh my God, I'm 3 hours away and I start work in 4 hours. I can't come get you. Can you please pull over and call the cops?" And I just said, "You know how I was dressed this evening. There's no way I can call the cops. They're going to judge me." And this is how someone who's 21 is going to think, because a lot of it is very true. There's a lot of men who will judge you and say, "Well, why were you wearing that? What did you say? Oh, you accepted a drink from this person." And it's just like, gosh,
you're afraid
when they're down.
Right. And you're only 21. I mean, let's think about that. I happen to have 6 kids, 3 and 3 with my second marriage. And, they range in age from 26 to 18. And yeah, they're insecure. No matter how much confidence we've imbued or instilled in them, they still have well, what will they think? Well, what will they say? Well, I felt guilty because I took the drink, or I can imagine.
And then the other thing too, it just, I was, I didn't want my parents to worry. And that's a huge thing. I mean, I think that a lot of times parents, they automatically go to this place. Well, why didn't you tell me? Kids care about you. They don't want you to worry. I was in my 30s when I finally said what happened to me at my martial arts school and shared different things that had happened. My parents had to hear what happened with salsa on a podcast.
Oh, wow.
They heard, and my mom and dad, my dad was just mortified, so frustrated and angry because they would go salsa dancing with me and they'd constantly say, "Hey, why don't you dance with that guy? You guys looked so good together." And I would just be like, "No, Mama, I don't want to dance with this person." But you don't want to explain, "Yeah, it's because he roofied me, kidnapped me, took me over to his house and was going to probably rape me." And it was just such a tough thing because I was trying to be strong. And we have this idea of what strong is. And, for women, a lot of times it has a lot of, it just has a lot to do with masculine behavior. And for me, I'm a very feminine person. So learning what strong is as a woman, I think is so important for all women and girls is that you can be strong, kick butt, take names, and wear high heels if you want to.
That's right. Well, first of all, I want to commend you for sharing your story. I think it's Brene Brown says that we release any of that shame or fear by putting it on the table in front of us, by talking about it. And, you did what you believed you needed to do, and you didn't do anything wrong, not one thing wrong. I know you know this, but, just to reiterate it one more time for you, and not telling your parents, you chose to do that because you love them and you didn't want them to feel bad or worried or, think that their little girl couldn't hold her own, because you obviously can. So you took that experience. And then how did that change your way of being? And the fact that you kept going back to salsa class, good for you.
Well, it was salsa dancing. I went to the ballroom. I loved it. It was wonderful to just be there with people. And that was my happy place because of what was happening at my martial arts school of being, dealing with sexual harassment and all these other things. It was like, this is a place where I can feel beautiful and sexy and not have to worry. But then, of course, after that, you worry.
Yeah.
And so,
but you kept going back, and your parents went there with you as well.
They went.
Wow.
My mom would go salsa dancing with me. After that experience, I was like, safer to be with my parents.
Well, that's a good point. Very good point.
But and so for me, as I was driving home that evening, I actually had this epiphany. Oh my gosh, I didn't use the moves that I learned at my martial arts school. I need to have a curriculum for women and girls that's relevant, because a lot of people don't understand this. There's over 220 martial arts styles. There's only 5 made by women. And
wow.
And you think of martial arts, and it's an art. It was designed by men for men to support them in practicing for war.
Right.
And for boxing was designed by men for men to help, when it came to, well, obviously it was the sport, but then on top of that, it helped with street fighting. Mm-hmm. How many street fights do women get into? Very few. And so just making sure that, for me, I wanted to create something that was relevant for women. So I got my self-defense partner, ElleLiveAction, who, he also did not know what was happening. I didn't share with him. I talked to him about it in my 30s, and he was like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me what was happening at the martial arts school? Why didn't you tell me what was happening at the...
Why do you think you waited that long? And I ask, and curious as to your reflection on that waiting.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that this is common for, so many women. You don't want people to look at you differently. You don't want people to look at you and think you're broken. You don't want people to judge you. There's the thought of, salsa dancing, she had it coming. Martial arts, you're hanging out with guys all day and, sparring. Of course, there's probably some connections there. And it's like, well, yeah, there's the connection as this person is, another participant in class. They're, a colleague or a teammate or whatever, but that doesn't give you the right to cross the line.
Of course not.
And so I think that a lot of women who go to martial arts have this experience. In fact, a large majority of the women who I speak to who are in my profession had an experience at a martial arts school with the martial arts instructor. And so for me, I'm like, okay, my story is not new. This kind of stuff has happened, and it's really sad that it does happen where you go into a place to feel safe and it's a predatory environment. But for me, I went over 800 self-defense moves with my self-defense partner, but I was wearing 3-inch heels and a dress. I wanted to put together a curriculum that, you could be wearing a dress, you could be wearing maybe one of the most compromising outfits ever, and you could still protect yourself. And so I put it in a curriculum, and I pitched it to a school. I ended up getting a program in one school, and it moved from one school to 3 schools to 4. And they asked me to go district wide. And my partner asked me to move to Maui. So, yeah.
Well, bad things happen, and I still think there's value in all.
Yes.
And I can remember some things happening where this voice in my head said, you need to have this on your experience to help others. And so clearly the value was there for you, that you have created such a beautiful outcome, and you've helped so many people. You've helped thousands of people all over the world, multiple countries. You have an online offering, which is really quite beautiful. Talk to me about the mission and vision here. Yes, you want it for women in any circumstance, the heels and the tight leather skirt, whatever, right? So, yeah, I see my daughter already. There she is. She's going to learn I'm going to send her to your course so she can kick ass.
There you go. Yes, that's the dream. For me, it was 2018 when I first decided to actually make an online course, and it was because of a student. She came in, and it was one of those moments. And if you're an entrepreneur out here, this might make you happy. I had no one in class, and I was like, oh my God. And so I was thinking, universe, God, if I'm supposed to do this work, you need to give me some sort of sign, because if not, then I'm just cutting it. Like, it's not paying the bills. And I had started my business in 2016 and really loved it. I mean, I'm passionate about it, and it's my life's work. And I was getting ready to shut everything down, and this woman walked into my class, and I said, there's only you. So I apologize. And she's like, don't apologize. I get a private session. This is amazing. All right, let's do this. And come to find out, she had an incident happen in college at knife point that she did not get out of 20 years before. And so I walked her through how to use her voice, how to go through that same scenario where she was, laying down, her hands were pinned, and she had a knife at her throat. I have fake knives. You're not practicing with real knives with me. But fake knives, and we went through what she could do if something like that happens. Now, I have a rule whenever I'm talking to students, and it's don't should on yourself. The shoulda, coulda, woulda. Because how many times are you in class and you're like, oh my God, I wish I could have done that, or you're watching a movie and you're just like, yep, that's the move. I could have used that move. And you just, you eat yourself up because of all the things that you did not do. And we don't just do that because of these scenarios. We do it in life every day.
Oh yeah. I tell my clients all the time, stop shoulding all over yourself. Yeah.
Do not should on yourself. Yeah. And so, for me, it was just really important to get her through this session and have her feel empowered and understand that she did nothing wrong. Because oftentimes with a lot of victims, we blame ourselves. We blame ourselves so much. And it takes a really long time to heal. And that's also why we don't share with other people, because we're ashamed.
Right.
Or we are worried we're going to be looked down on. And so for the session afterwards, she looked at me and she looked in my eyes and she goes, everyone needs to know this. Everyone needs to know what you just taught me. This is amazing. And she goes, I don't tell a lot of people this, but I'm an influencer online and I teach women's health courses online. I think you need an online course.
Yes.
Okay. I never thought about it, but let's do it. And so she helped me. She gave me a blueprint, basically, like this is how people would be able to digest self-defense online, because so many people were like, oh no, you can't do that. I even went to the next year, it was 2019, and I went to this global self-defense training called through ESD Global. It's a global empowerment self-defense organization. And the founder of that and the president, I was telling her, you should do an online course. And she goes, oh, there's no market for that.
And that was 2019. Little did they know.
I know. Yes. So then I was like, okay, no problem. And I just kept on keeping on. And and then the pandemic happened, and domestic violence went up by 46% in Hawaii. And
oh
so,
my God.
Oh, it's giving me a thumbs up.
Oh, that's right.
It's cranking up.
Dude, she's talking about the video, guys. You remember I did that once on a story on my phone, and I kept doing a thumbs up. I was talking and it kept thumbsing up. So we're just getting validation from the angels, and that's all good.
They agree. They agree
with us. Yes.
They agree. And so, so the pandemic happened, and I gave away 46 of the courses that I had for my online course because of that percentage. I wanted to bring awareness to it. I wanted to support women. And I was looking at the course, and I'm like, this is kind of outdated. I've learned so much more since 2018. I need a new course. And so I happened to be at a waterfall, hiking down this waterfall, like on the rocks with my partner. He and I, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last year in August. After the year.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people after these experiences, and I've had a lot of lived experiences as a survivor, think that you can't have this, like you can't have that relationship. And I really want people to understand that they're deserving of it.
Yes.
You've been through a lot. You deserve the boon.
Yes.
So we're hiking down this waterfall, and he's talking, and I look down and I realized my fanny pack's unzipped. My fanny pack had my phone. And so my phone goes over the fanny pack, drops down, lands on my foot, and is just hovering there. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Ryland.
Come, help, quick.
And it hits, and it goes down into the waterfall, into the pool of water. And I look over at him, and I'm like, oh my God, Ryland, this is my life. Go dive for it. And he's diving, those cats that hate water. That's what he looks like. He just looks angry and dejected and like, and he's so frustrated. And I was there with this girlfriend, and she looks over at this guy who looks like a giant meditating on a rock. And she goes, God, it'd be nice if somebody could help us, and total superhero moment. Dun, 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 dun. Ma'am, where did you last see your phone? Like pointing over there, does one dive, comes up, hey, how's it going? Pretending.
How's it going? And those phones are pretty resilient too. So that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, looking at the face that my boyfriend had, like after all my work, he gets it on
one time. I know.
One time, and I'm looking, and of course my girlfriend's looking and like, whoa, he's attractive. And in my mind, he's the perfect guy to beat up.
Oh, right. You're like, I got this guy.
Yeah, I'm like, how can I make this work? And I was so excited when I found out she got his phone number. I was like, give me his phone number. She's like, what? And I was just like, no, not for that. Like,
right.
His phone number so I can beat him up. And she's like, but you just met him. He did nothing wrong. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand. I need an online course. And, and so I was explaining it to her, and she became the girl in the course.
Cool.
So I have these videos, and I'm teaching someone who's never learned self-defense before in the course, and that's her. And then he was the attacker in the course, and Kyle is He's Tony Robbins' bodyguard, sweetest guy.
Oh, cool.
Looks like an angry Mr. Clean on the outside. But on the inside is this big teddy bear, and he's really, really sweet. And so I felt so bad because, like he apparently he was telling me this story about how he was at the food trucks one day, and these people walked up to him and they go, "That it's you, you're the attacker."
Oh, they knew him. I love it. He's famous now for other reasons other than Tony Robbins.
We saw you on the news, and it's because I had this connection with the news station, and so I used some of the videos in the news station, and so I felt so bad I felt so bad for him because he didn't know that I had put them in the news out there in the news. He knew that they were in the course, and so. Yeah,
well, that was just, again, all this divine intervention, right? Like things are put in place for you, and you're in 2020, it's the pandemic, and when you give, you receive. You had just given away. Oh, it's beautiful.
I made
Tell me about your vision. How do you, like when you're doing the work now, there were some things you talk about, like psychological first aid, this whole thing about harmonious spirit. I want to bring those up because I can only imagine how emotional, our bodies have cellular memory. And for these women and girls who are coming to you for this type of training, how do you hold a sacred space for the emotions that likely will come up in the training? And you've got an online course. How does that person hold space for themselves when they're in their own living room?
Yes. So, I do disclaimers. I like people understanding from the get-go, it's going to be emotional. I have a lot of people who don't do self-defense courses. Like, it takes them forever to walk in my door. Mm-hmm. Not that they don't want it. They need it. But it takes them forever to walk into my door because then that means that they have to face what happened.
Yeah.
And so I let them know from the get-go, you will get triggered. You're going to have moments. It's going to be hard, but I can tell you afterwards, it is so freeing. The experience that you will have, it frees you. It will give you the strength and the courage to be able to do things that you never thought you were capable of because of the fact that you were holding yourself back from experiencing these things because we don't want to hurt our bodies.
Right. You're protecting your heart. You're protecting, most people have to go inward in order to cope. And it's a very normal human way of being. And that's helped them, get along in life.
Yes.
Survive. Yeah.
So, for me, I say it as a disclaimer. I let people know what they're getting into. You will experience a lot. It will be very hard, but there's so much of a reward on the other side. It's so beautiful and amazing when you find your voice or reclaim it because it's powerful. You are so powerful. Women, especially when you're using your voice and you are striking, you're 10 times stronger when you use your voice than when you don't. And one study from the National Justice Institute stated that 75% of all physical confrontations could be avoided through verbal communication in the feel-out stage. So we go to these self-defense courses, and I think that it's great that there are self-defense courses and that, men are teaching self-defense for women because obviously there's a passion there and they want to support. However, when women experience something, it's very different. The experience is different. And so our experiences when it comes to violence, gender-based violence specifically, is so unique and it's not comparable. And so when you are working with a woman, especially one who is a survivor, most empowerment self-defense instructors are survivors. It's really amazing to see the response, the reactions, and what can happen, because they hold space. Lots of people, if you're look into empowerment self-defense. I'm not just saying that because I teach it. I'm saying it because I believe in it. I think that it's a wonderful tool for all people, all genders, especially women, though. Just because, when you are doing it, it's trauma informed. And that's also how I hold a space. I let people know this is a trauma informed space. If you need to grieve, grieve. If you need to go off to the side, do it. If you need to go and pause and come back, you can. If my assistant's there, usually I'll say, like, you can raise your hand and my assistant will go off with you and hold space for you when you are going through it. But I am not going to stop teaching.
Right.
So one of the misconceptions, and I had a student, and oh gosh, it breaks your heart when you hear these things. But, I had this student and she got triggered because of one of the moves. And she looked at me and she goes, "Why didn't you save me?" And I could see the hurt. I could see, like, there's this part of her, like the inner child saying, why didn't someone save me? And and that hits so close to home for me, because I just kept on thinking, as this young girl, even though I didn't want to tell my parents and didn't want to tell, all these other people, it's like, why can't somebody come in and just save me from this experience? Why do I have to do it alone? And she said that to me. And, I looked at her and I said, because it's not my job. It's your job. It's your job to save yourself. It's your job to fight for yourself. And so many of us want someone else to come in and save us. And, and maybe there will be someone who wants to, but they're not going to be with you 24/7. They're just not. I had a husband and wife come in, and I worked with them for 5 years. And the reason why they originally came in is because he said, I want to learn moves so that I can protect her if we need to, because they're Asian and they dealt with a lot of Asian hate. And it was just so sad to me. And she was a sexual assault survivor. And so I worked with her and him for 5 years, and it was just amazing. Take this 90-pound woman and see her breaking a board. And it's just the most empowering, invigorating experience. And, and I loved seeing that. And I got messages from her when she moved off island. She moved to Portland, and she sent me messages and she said, it works,
We hope you're enjoying listening to this episode of Coffee with Nicoa. Make sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and follow Coffee with Nicoa on Instagram to find inspiring content that will help you begin creating your life by design.
Well, you reference Asian hate in that situation, and in your website, and I want to make sure I'll put all the details, but in your website, you talk about, you also offer space and accommodation in this type of training for people with disabilities, people at risk. So talk a little bit about that. And also, I'd love for you to share the work you're doing with middle schools and the program that you created. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love working with kids. It's a passion of mine. I have an education background, and so during the pandemic, I actually got this program into schools, and we did an online program that was 8 weeks long. And it was so wonderful to just be able to work with all of these girls and see them blossom over that 8 weeks and open up about things that were happening in their lives, get support in things that they probably wish that they could have conversations with their parents about, but then also didn't want them to worry.
Right.
And so I ended up doing that. And I also got a contract with the Girl Scouts of Hawaii, and ended up traveling to different islands. So I traveled to Oahu in May and did workshops for the Girl Scouts of Hawaii, and just it was so cool to see these little girls with their moms doing self-defense together, and just learning these basic skills. You know, a lot of times we think, oh, what are the physical skills that we need to learn? But using your voice, so powerful. Understanding awareness of, you know, just bringing your head up. We, in this tech age where we're so focused on our phones and we're so focused on everything else, you know, that's happening internally, we're not very aware of what's going on. So just seeing them be so aware of their surroundings and asking questions and getting curious, I love it.
I'm curious. Keep going. I would love to hear what are some things you could articulate for our listeners that they could immediately apply, like, you know, having your head up, not walking down the street, looking down at your phone. What other actual practices could we maybe share today?
Yes. Okay. So for one thing is, if you're ever going to go on a date to a new place, I case out the place. I go there beforehand. I know my exits. You know, a lot of times we go into a restaurant and we sit down, we get a meal. I usually go, I sit down, I think, okay, where are the exits? There's usually one where in the kitchen, and then there's going to be one in the front. Are there any other exits? So for me, I just really wanted to make sure that, that they had basic tools to utilize. And so when I go into a restaurant with a client or something, I'll have them sit down and look around and say, okay, what do you see?
Yeah.
What are you aware of? Because even so, I think I want people to look at a broader term when it comes to self-defense. Instead of just thinking physical confrontation, somebody yelling and screaming at you, what infringes upon your peace?
So tell me more.
When you have a day, like let's say that you go into the office and you listen to your boss screaming and raging at someone. Doesn't have to be you, but did that affect your peace? Is it going to jolt you for a while? You know? And so when it comes to self-defense, I'm thinking, what keeps you safe? What keeps your mind safe? What keeps your body safe? You know, what do you need to do for yourself in order to support you?
Right. What can you do to ground in that moment and create space or protection around you so that you aren't triggered and reacting to such a dynamic? This is really powerful, because you're not always the direct recipient of an attack. You might just be getting the vibrational, impact, the ripple effect of it.
Well, just think of if you have a partner and your partner had a long day and they come home angry. Do you not feel that? I know that I'll walk in, I'll walk into a room. My partner's had a bad day. He doesn't even have to look at me. I can feel the energy in the room. I'm like, oh, wow, you are not having a good one. And so I'll suggest, I'm like, hey, have you, how's your day? And I'll ask and see how he's doing. If he's had a bad day, it's like, what are certain go-to things that you can do for yourself? I have my go-to things: bike riding, swimming in the ocean, going and jumping in a waterfall.
Yes.
Like, you might not have those right nearby, but what are the things that you can do for yourself automatically that make you happy? 15 minutes of dancing can up your serotonin level like that. So just being able to have these go-to things that you can do, and it's hacking the system. And it's releasing the serotonin, it's dropping down your levels when it comes to anxiety and stress. And when you are constantly in a fight or flight mode, that affects your body in so many different levels. I just had my self-healing course come out the week of the fire, and I talked to people about somatic movements and how you can calm your body, calm your nervous system. The vagus nerve, when you have a traumatic situation, it's off. It's going to take a while for it to go back. Thumbs up. Yes.
Thumbs up. Yep.
It agrees with me.
That's right. And
so,
the somatic piece is big. I'm also an ontological coach, so I work with body, emotion, and language. And I'm really glad you mentioned that. And what I find really unique here, and I hope everybody's picking up on this, is yes, you have these courses. Yes, we're going to learn reactionary or responsive ways of moving and saving ourselves physically. But where did we really come back to, right? The emotions of this, the voice, the calming. How can you find safety in your own body, in yourself, when your autonomic nervous system is having a stress trigger? So yeah, this is really beautiful. What else can you share with us?
Oh, I mean, I could share all day. There's,
I know, right?
and there's so much that I just think is so important. One big thing is asking, what do I need right now? And this goes for everything. You might have a horrible day in the beginning, and it's like, do you want to live there? Do you want to stay there? No, I don't want to stay there. How can I change that? What do I need right now? And women, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. We don't give ourselves enough of what we need. They did a study that women neglect to go to the bathroom as much as men do. And it's like, yes, hello. So asking yourself what you need. Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need to go and get a beverage so you can hydrate? Do you need food? And the reason why I say this in relation to self-defense is because what happens when you deny yourself those things? You are not fully present where you are. You're focused on other things. You're focused on food. You're focused on needing to go to the bathroom. You're focused, if you have a fight with a friend or something like that, it's hard for you to work, right? Or if
that's right.
You're not going to be focused.
Even the whole thing about basic needs, when I was in the corporate world, I denied my basic needs so frequently that I'm now 55 and I have to go work with a pelvic floor therapist because I would not go to the bathroom. Yes. And my body began to not trust me anymore. And therefore it's like, yeah, I know you say we're about to get up and go to the bathroom, but I don't believe you. So I have to have a conversation with my body and learn relaxation techniques. And there's already an interview with my pelvic health therapist earlier in this podcast, season 1. So it's not TMI.
Yeah.
But it's so powerful, the work that you're talking about. We are multi-layered beings, energetically, physically, emotionally. And it sounds like the work that you're doing is really, like you say, it's elevating, awareness. It's empowering people and helping people become advocates for themselves. And you truly are inspiring, especially with the history and stories that you've shared. What are you working on now, and what else would you like to share with our audience?
Well, thank you. I have so many different projects. Oh my gosh. I just got approved for 2 new courses. So those are coming out. It's another self-defense course on top of the one that I have with the Transformation Academy. And if you are a coach, or if you are wanting, professional development training, or if you just want the skills so then you can use them or pass them along, highly recommend going to the Transformation Academy and getting the Empowerment Self-Defense course. I just launched on my website the 21-day challenge, and it's 21 days of empowerment self-defense. We go over self-care. We go over awareness. We go over the 5 principles of self-defense, which are think, yell, run, fight, and tell. And so think, you're looking at your awareness. Do it as a cheer with the girls. So, the girls programs like think, yell, run, fight, tell. It's really fun.
Okay. Think, yell, run, fight, tell. I got it. So think is awareness. You want to walk through them for us? Yeah. That's really cool.
Of course. Yeah. So think, it's your awareness, and that's environmental awareness. So what do I see around me? Where are my exits? What do I need for myself to be safe? Social awareness. What's happening in front of me with the dynamics here? Is this person a safe person? Should I question them? What do they have? Do they have a weapon? Are they near things that could compromise me? What are they saying? Do I feel comfortable with it? Do I feel safe? And then asking yourself, how do I feel right now? Do I feel safe in my body? Do I feel safe in the location that I'm in? Do I need to move? What do I need in order to feel safe? So that's that piece. So we have think, yell. Yell means a boundary. So setting a boundary with somebody, I tell people about this, you teach others how to treat you. Nip it in the butt. Like, let them know exactly how it is, because when you do that, I've dealt with sexual harassment in the workplace. I've also nipped it in the butt right away, and they respect you after.
You're not an easy prey either. If you're assertive and you speak up, do not speak to me that way. That's completely inappropriate. Right. Yeah.
And saying, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable with what you said. Because sometimes when you say you, then it's like ramps people up. It gets them escalated. But when you're saying, I don't feel comfortable right now. I don't feel comfortable with the way you're talking to me.
Good.
So that lets them know how you're feeling, and they can't argue with you. No, you don't feel that way. Of course you do. Yeah. So
right. You don't know how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we have think, yell, run, and run can be a couple of things. Run could be walking away, can say, you know what, I'm getting ramped up right now. I don't think that you and I are going to find a common ground. I'm going to leave. And when you are in a better space to communicate with me, I will be in a better space to communicate with you. Or I can't understand you right now because you're yelling and I am feeling very triggered. So I don't think that we can have this conversation. I'm going to go. Or you can, if they're at your house, you can ask them to leave. I don't feel comfortable where this is going. I would like you to leave.
Good.
So think, yell, run, fight. Fight can be verbal, fight can be physical, but it's, gloves are off. In martial arts, there's rules. In boxing, there's rules. There are no rules when someone is trying to put their hands on you. Or when somebody is getting verbally abusive with you. There are no rules. People, I've heard in some self-defense classes, like, don't smile. As a trauma reaction, so many women smile. I've smiled and hit somebody in the face. Like, I smiled and broke somebody's wrist when they were trying to drag me out on a dance floor. I'm like, you can smile and still do the move and it's just fine.
That's right. I don't even know how to not smile.
Oh, I know, because it's like a programming.
Right.
Smile, you'll be happier. And yes, it is a great hack because it's like, the serotonin levels go up automatically. But still, it's important for you to be able to honor yourself. So there's that think, yell, run, fight, and tell. And tell is one of the most important ones. I talk to people about this and it's automatically like, oh, you should tell the police. Some people don't feel comfortable talking to the police. Some people don't feel comfortable talking to their parents. I say, tell someone. You can, if you need to, and you don't feel comfortable telling anyone, start out with telling your journal. Get it out of your head, because the fact is that how you get PTSD is this. I talked about how it reminds me of those old VCR tapes, and they would skip back to like one moment, skip back. And so throughout the day, that's all you're thinking about is that moment when something horrible happened and you didn't respond in the way that you wanted to, or you didn't do this or that, or, you're just thinking about the act of it. And it was really horrible. So just making sure that you are telling someone, even if it's telling a journal or if it's writing a letter. I've talked to my clients about this all the time. Write a letter to that person saying every single thing you wish you could say, or have a letter from them. If you actually care about that person, have a letter from them to you, you writing it, saying all the things you wish that person would have said to you, and burn it. Let it go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The fact that you said journaling, I actually just published a journal that I'm selling with prompts, and journaling has been the one constant for me throughout my entire life. I was reading in my 10-year-old journal recently. I actually recognized that I had been, there was some inappropriate behavior even as young as 10 that I did not realize had happened to me. I didn't remember.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy, yeah. It's like, what the hell? So no wonder, right? All these, like, we have these embedded memories but yes, that's a critical step. And if you can get it out, as my old administrative assistant used to say, as I was crying in my office many a day, she'd be like, better out than in, better out than in.
Yes, it's so true, because it hurts your heart when you keep those things in. I love that you have a journal. I have 3 workbooks that are actually going to be published in the next 2 weeks.
Yay! I just showed her, y'all. You know how to show it off.
It looks very, very nice. You should check
very
it out.
Nice.
So I have 3 workbooks that are going to be published in the next 3 weeks. And basically it's a self-defense workbook that actually shows visuals of the different moves and the blocks, and breaks everything down, and self-assessments where you can actually go through and say, like how you felt you did on that. It gives prompting questions. It'll actually give prompting questions about your past so that you can work through past trauma. And it does have a journaling aspect to it, where you're writing in there and reflecting, like, this brings me back to this moment. And so it's very supportive.
Amazing. I cannot wait. I'm going to put these in the links. I always take every interview, all the books, all the journals, whatever you want me to publish, I will.
I have, there's a self-care one that's also coming out, and it has like a week-long plan of ways that you can do self-care for yourself, along with examples of things that you could do for healthy eating or nutrition or all these other things. So it's just a whole package of all of this stuff. But I just wanted people to, they're always asking me, oh, what do you do here? How do you feel about this? What are your thoughts here? And I was like, I just need to get all this out in a workbook. It's like 150 pages.
Yeah, so is mine. And I tell you, you're going to share it anyway. You might as well compile it in a format that's digestible by your clients, your friends, and whoever's in need of it. So you had mentioned that there might be an offering that we could send to our listeners today. Is there something? I forgot to check with you on that, but you had mentioned there might be like a discount code or something. If not, we can edit this.
Yes, I can actually. Can I send that to you, and then we can edit it in? But yes, I have my 21-day challenge. I have a discount, so then you can just get it for $21. So literally, you get a workbook with that. You get the videos with it. You can ask me questions along the way. It's just a fun way of doing it. So then you're learning, and it's an introduction to everything. And then I also have discount codes, which I'll share for the online courses if you're curious about those as well.
Oh, Tasha, that is very, very generous. I can tell that you have been very generous in your entire Life by Design journey. What is the best thing about your Life by Design right now that's serving you the most?
Oh my gosh. I love waking up in the morning and doing my morning routine. I geek out on the fact that, I have this thing, and everybody thinks it's something else when I say it. It's called the 420 rule, but it's 20 minutes, 20, yes, exactly. Actually, 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of writing, 20 minutes of meditation or prayer, depending on how, you view your life, and then 20 minutes of exercise. So I do that in the morning. And the reason why is because there was a study done on ballerinas throughout their whole lifespan, and they practice moves over 2,000 times. So they're with dance, they are firing all the areas of their brain, and they do that in the morning. And I was like, okay, how can I fire all of the areas of my brain? So the 420 rule became a thing, because you are actually firing up the different areas of your brain. So you're naturally more awake, you're more present. I am 10 times more productive doing this every day. And, part of the piece of me living my life as it is authentically, for those of you out there who are ADHD, I'm very ADHD. And so for me to be able to have agency over my own schedule, to be able to drop everything for a friend when they're having a really crummy day, or being able to, FaceTime my parents and check in on them and their, the family and everything, and make sure everything's all right. It means the world to me to have that freedom.
Oh, I think that is exactly what lives by design are. It's a freedom of choice.
Yes.
And you can create it any way you like, and you can't get this thing called life wrong. And I just want to thank you from my deepest of my heart, because you and I didn't know each other.
Oh,
and
I know.
I kind of invited you on a whim. And who knew how robust and fabulous this interview was going to be? I just am so grateful. You have so much to offer. I'll make sure and give all the details in the show notes. Last but not least, what's the one thing you want to celebrate about yourself before we hang up?
Well, it's a great question. I think that with my healing journey, it's been over 12 years now. And it's been a whole process of learning and relearning and unlearning different patterns. And I'm just so grateful for where I'm at in this journey of loving myself for who I am authentically. I think that it's so important for you to love who you are, because at the end of your life, you don't want to look back and think, what if I had just broken down those barriers and really just loved myself? Where would I be at? And I think that it's so wonderful to have that feeling, to know that I just truly love myself, and I'm always going to fight for myself. I tell people I love myself fiercely, because I do. And I think that it's important for people to love themselves fiercely.
Absolutely. Well, I love you fiercely now too. I'm so excited to have met you. Thank you. Yay. I knew there was a special connection when your middle name was the same as my grandmother's first name, Ina. I was like, oh, I got to talk to that girl. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be in touch, and you'll send me all those details.
Yeah.
I love you. Have a fabulous day, and hang on, and we'll put a bow on this. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for a caffeinated conversation. Subscribe to Coffee with Nicoa for more stories from people living a life by design. You can also find inspiration on Instagram. Just follow Coffee with Nicoa. And check out our website, coffeewithnicoa.com. And that's Nicoa, Nicoa. We look forward to talking with you soon, and enjoy your coffee between now and then.